Thank you very much. First of all, don't be fooled by the name and the accent. I am actually Finnish. I'm half American, so the name comes from my father's side, just as the accent does. My mom's Finnish, and I grew up in eastern Helsinki. I work as a researcher at a think tank, and I research citizens' assemblies and deliberative democracy, but that's obviously not what I'm here to talk about today. I have a master's degree in political sociology, and I actually graduated from the same university as Professor Coel. I'm a deputy city councillor here in Helsinki from the Helsinki Greens, and I also serve on the subcommittee for permits and environment and on the police affairs committee. I'm also a cannabis activist, and in this realm I've done quite a lot of stuff. I wrote my own regulatory model, which you can find on my website in English as well, if you want to. And I was one of the main instigators in changing the policy of the Finnish Greens for legalizing cannabis. And interesting fact, actually, so 2 years ago we had our party congress where we had the vote between decriminalization or regulation of cannabis, and regulation won the vote by, was it 183 to 181? So just a couple votes. It's basically if one vote would have changed, it would have gone even, and then we would have gone with decriminalization. And we had this online discussion during our party congress, and Neil was one of the guests there. And afterwards, this one comrade of mine told me that their opinion was changed by Neil's speech. So Neil actually played a historical role in Finnish drug policy because his speech was one of the reasons why the Finnish Green League became the first political party in Finnish history, that is in parliament to support the regulation of cannabis. So thanks for that, Neil. I really want to thank our international guests for being here. It's very valuable, especially that we can get perspectives from police officers, because Finnish police officers cannot speak their minds about these topics as our guests can. I get messages from all kinds of people because I talk very actively about the failures of our drug policy, and a couple of police officers have also sent me messages. One of them told me about how he supports very strongly the regulation of cannabis, but he can't talk about this at work. He's a junior officer, and the police is a very hierarchical organization, and he cannot voice his opinion. I find this a problem from the perspective of freedom of speech. The leadership of the Finnish police are the most prominent lobbyists for our current system of prohibition. When our parliament discussed a citizens' initiative to decriminalize cannabis, many representatives of the Finnish police were heard. Their testimonies were unfortunately not the most truthful. They talked about the gateway hypothesis, which was debunked by actual experts heard by the committee. They talked about how cannabis makes people violent and can actually make children have a psychosis and then take guns to schools. These were actual things that the police told members of parliament. They said, there was this one officer who said the legalization threatens our national security because all young people would become addicts and then they couldn't defend the country. Now, these arguments should seem ridiculous to most people, but the overwhelming majority of our parliament sided with the police on this initiative and voted against decriminalization. I actually know some of these politicians that voted against these measures, and I know for a fact that they actually support decriminalization or legalization as well. I've spoken about them, spoken with them about this. I know this for a fact. Here we get to the old problem that for a politician, it's much easier to do what is popular than what is right. Our lack of public discourse around these issues also keeps the opinions of people as they are. the majority of Finns will change their minds on issues when presented with new facts, and when they're presented by experts, and especially by political leaders. We saw this kind of change in opinion in the NATO discussion, for example, and it could happen in this discussion as well. Unfortunately, political leaders right now act more like cowards than leaders in this issue, and police are regarded by many as the leading experts in this field. The police are experts in catching criminals and do a great job at enforcing prohibition, as Neil already explained to us. Unfortunately, when discussing the greater societal implications of prohibition, Finnish police drift from the realm of facts into the realm of opinions based on debunked myths. It's hard for me to get over the irony that police battling drug crime is actually creating more drug crime. I fear what the escalating war on drugs means for my own community as well. The first areas in a country to experience increasing negative effects of the escalating war on drugs are always suburbs of big cities. I'm from Eastern Helsinki. We have the most diverse neighborhoods, the average level of education is lower, and the city is not built as beautifully as the area where we are right now. We will face every problem that comes with the escalating war on drugs first. How long until my community starts facing the same problems we see literally everywhere where the war on drugs has been escalated past the point where we are right now in Finland? How long before we see an explosion in knife and gun crime, children dealing opioids, gang rapes, and all the other issues that Neil told us about? Because these problems are coming if we do not change our ways. We already have children dying. How long until we do something about it? Even in my party, the Greens, as well as the Left Alliance, the main paradigm when it comes to drugs still revolves around the war on drugs. Yes, our parties are trying to advance general decriminalization, the decriminalization of use, but our politicians are quick to remind people that they still want police cracking down on supply, which we know for a fact is not sustainable. Yes, we do support regulating cannabis in the Greens now, but even this was a massive uphill battle to pass, and our party leadership is still not behind it 100%. And even the idea of talking about regulating drugs like ecstasy or cocaine seems difficult to even start. The Left Alliance doesn't even support regulating cannabis yet. So obviously we need more bravery in the parties that are already the biggest allies in this fight. Politicians fear their voters, but NGOs don't have voters. The main issue that the Institute for Health and Welfare of Finland and many other NGOs that do great work in the field of drugs in Finland, I feel like it's that regulation is seen as a social experiment, while prohibition is seen as a given, neutral standpoint, and not as a system with its own very serious consequences. Because of the lack of critical discussion towards the war on drugs, it's very difficult to move forward on this topic. That's why events like this are so important. I want to thank Humane ja päihdepolitiikkaa a lot for organizing this event, and especially our international guests for their great and very moving talks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. And then we have, again, some time for audience questions for the previous speakers. If there's any questions.
I got the box.
Or
You want the box?
Bob, or
Just how do you, is that?
Yeah.
A question for Coel. Just on your observation of the discussions, You've mentioned the Green Party and the Left Alliance. Now, it's always really important for us as members of LEAP to emphasise that this is not a partisan issue. This has to be adopted and considered by all of the political parties, and certainly we find that we have allies right across the political spectrum. We do in the United States. We have libertarians. In Norway, the reforms are actually led by the centre-right. It varies per country, but do you have ways of encouraging this debate on the other side, perhaps on the more right-leaning, or is that the more difficult part? I'm not formulating my question very well.
No, I get it. That's a great question. Actually, I mean, I've been trying to change the drug laws around cannabis in Finland for the past half a decade, and through this, I do have quite extensive networks in the National Coalition Party, our centre-right party, the Social Democrats. I've met a lot of people in the Centre Party, which is our more agrarian party, and there are people in all political parties that support at least ending the prohibition of cannabis, and the general decriminalization of all drugs. Even younger members of the Christian Democrats, which is our very socially conservative party, not like the Christian Democrats in Europe usually. Even younger members of this party do support legalizing cannabis and the decriminalization of all drugs. To me, this is not a partisan issue. This is not a left-right thing. In the Greens and the Left Alliance, we tend to have in my opinion, a more science-based approach to politics, and we have a lot more braver politicians. We have younger politicians. We have more urban politicians, and I think that does affect the policy of the party. But I do believe that, like, for example, when we legalize cannabis in Finland, that government will have Social Democrats and most likely the National Coalition Party. And I do believe that we can advance this, and we do have good allies in this fight throughout the political spectrum. Thanks for the question. There's another question right behind you.
I don't think that much of a question, but a comment. Just a brief background about myself. I've been 46 years in the business of what you've been doing, working in more than 80 countries all over the world, participating in the war on drugs as well. My comment to you, thank you for your very good and somewhat provocative presentation. You said one thing that stuck with me, that was that the police cannot say or they can't express their views about their, for example, drug policy. I'm a living example of one who has been open about it. My problem, since I understood some 25 years ago that fighting drugs the way we are doing is expensive and useless, has been that there has been no platform to continue the discussion. And the only platform comes in the form of presentations like today, or when there is time for elections. Then some people raise the issue and you can participate in the discussion. So that was a long comment, but I probably get my through. Yes.
Maybe I can give just a bit more background. Sorry, how are we running on time? Do you want me to stop talking?
Coffee break until 2, so.
Okay, no, but we want to drink some coffee as well. So, no, this one police officer that sent me a message. He has sometimes voiced some of his political opinions, in the coffee room, stuff like this. This is what he told me, but he gets a lot of hate for it. And this was just, him talking about politicians that he likes. And he says that he doesn't want to bring out his opinions when it comes to drug policy because he fears that, what if it will hurt his career down the line? He's a young guy, and most of his bosses are twice his age. He believes that he can make a difference when he becomes, one of the more higher-ranking officers, and I believe him. I told him that not everyone can be an activist. Not everyone can be an activist. It does take a lot of courage, and it can put your own job at risk as well.